Organic has been our strongest. So whatever is good, we want to get more out of. So
Okay.
local search, we need to kill it. It's basically that simple. Website loading too slow, social media not being repurposed properly, dollar a day ads to try to drive a little bit more of that local signal, which will help us actually in the SEO. That's our recommendation. Hey, Brooklyn, how are you?
Good.
Hello.
Hello.
Dennis, are you home now?
I'm home for 12 hours and I'm flying to Kansas City at 1 a.m. tonight.
Oh my gosh.
You have the most jacked up retirement schedule that I've ever heard of.
Well, I played golf for a while and that was kind of boring after a week or two.
This is more fun, helping build businesses and doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds more fun in my opinion too. Also, I suck at golf, so there's that. That's why golfing is not fun. So we have an HQ call with our whole team at 2:30. So and this didn't need to be a long call, and we just want to get back to on the same page with you guys because you've done a lot of work up front already. And I apologize for having you guys veer off the course a little bit. I know that you guys give first and serve and okay, by the way, this is out of the scope. So thank you for that. By no means do we want to overreach. So I just want to be on the same page. And obviously I know that you guys only want to help and okay, here's some things that we found, right? I know you're not overreaching. You guys aren't overreaching and not nickeling and diming, which you've already proven to not do that. So I just wanted us to get on the same page and then what can we do to execute to move forward? And just to be fully transparent with you, we are kind of viewing ourselves right now as a little bit of a turnaround because what got us here and what did work is not necessarily working as much. Consumer spending has changed and we're just not getting the visibility that we need. And before just we had to open the doors and then people were there. Not saying that it was the plan. We were very guerrilla marketing heavy and in the community and go to the events, get involved with your chamber and pass out the little cards and all that stuff was what we say to do. And that worked really, really well. But maybe in the business has changed a lot in the past couple of years since COVID, so we have to pivot, I think, a little bit of our model. So we're leaning on not just you guys, but other experts and other folks on the operations, but also on the digital side and marketing wise. So anyway, I'll kick it over to you guys. I just want to share that's a quick update with us is we just really need to improve our guest count, more people through the doors, and more bowls out the doors. That's what we're trying to figure out, solve that puzzle.
All right. Well, you want to kick it off, Daniel, or should I talk?
Yeah, I can kick it off. So just kind of an overview update. You've seen some of this, but kind of so we can have, face-to-face talk about it so you can ask any questions you have. Where we're at right now, we talked about doing a first phase of plumbing where we wanted to get all the pixels and stuff on your central franchise site so that we can start to track the data there, so we can start to see where people are coming from, start to attribute some of those conversions back to the sources. As of right now, that is, I'm not going to say complete because there's always tweaks to be made with this kind of thing, but we're at a point where we're now looking at data and making adjustments based on what data is telling us, as opposed to waiting for data to flow in. So I'll just show you some of the key things that I'm looking at and kind of the next phases that we can look at together with kind of refining this system and building it out further so that we can keep cleaning up your data. So I'll share my screen. I'm going to stop my camera while I share my screen. My Wi-Fi tends to only like one or the other. So let me know when you can see it.
Yep.
Okay, so first thing that we're seeing, and first place I always go is I want to look at how is the traffic getting to your site. This is the last 28 days worth of data. And right now, organic search is king for you. It's driving the biggest portion of your data. But then the next thing we're seeing, and the one that that kind of represents our next goal, is there is a pretty high proportion of direct none on your site. Essentially what that means is there's kind of three main categories of what it is. One, somebody just typed in nauticalwolves.com and landed on the site. That is one option for direct none. Two is somebody has bookmarked your page and is clicking on it through that method. And then three, and what I suspect is probably the biggest portion, is we have emails or Facebook posts or text messages or newsletters or something out there where somebody's clicking on a post or clicking on a link and it's taking them directly to the site, but then it's not tracking any source because it is just a link on the site. So what I did is I looked at that data again. I filtered down to just the direct none to try to see if there's any obvious places where somebody would be landing on your site without that referral source included. The top one is the homepage. So that just further kind of outlines to me that we probably have some kind of promotional channel out there that isn't necessarily directed at a specific promotion. It may just be, we've got an image in one of our email templates that just has a link at the top that is just directing straight to the site. And so kind of the next thing that we can do for the central franchise tracking is for me and Brooklyn to get together and put our heads together and say, hey, where are you driving traffic that isn't showing up in this particular bucket, right? Do you have social ads that aren't showing up here? I know you have some social ads running right now, which is probably a portion of this. Do you have emails that are going out that we need to go through and make sure all the links have UTM parameters so we can say, hey, Google Analytics, this came from an email and this is the email that it came from, so that it can be grouped through and shown into this source? Because right now what we're seeing is almost 50% of our traffic is coming through and Google Analytics doesn't know where it's coming from because it's as that direct none, which is obviously not great. The good news in this, though, is we want to figure this out, but it looks like for the most part, the conversions we have are primarily coming from sources that we can track. So I'm going to add in that same piece of information here. It's not quite 50%. We do still have some direct none, but most of our conversion events that we identified, so the franchise inquiry and the catering lead, most of those are coming from sources that we can identify. We also have to remember that in this data, I'm hiding in here. Quite a few of these test ones were me. So this is actually going to be a little lower than this number shows because I did multiple tests on both of these and I just typed in the address directly. So I am some of that direct none, but that doesn't change the fact that we do have some direct none that we need to scope out. And so my proposal there is I'll just talk with Brooklyn and Ella and whoever else is involved in different kinds of promotional platforms and say, hey, we need to go through, we need to start double checking every link that we have, and we need to try to figure out which ones are not including that UTM information to say, hey, this is where this link is coming from. So that's kind of the first stage. The second stage, and the next thing that I'm sure Dennis will want to talk more about, is this data is starting to give us some information about places that we need to focus, right? Because we know that organic search is our kind of bread and butter right now. It's driving most of the traffic to the site. We need to figure out where this direct is, but that doesn't change the fact that 50% of our traffic is coming from organic search. And so what I did is I looked at your Google Search Console just to kind of get an idea of where we're at about which terms are driving it. And if we sort by clicks, we can see that you guys are pretty well dominating your brand name. You've got good power on that. If you look, your average position is really high on anything that has nautical bowls. And then even when you start to include locations, you're doing a good job there. But the opportunity that we have is if we sort by impressions, nautical bowls still shows up high there. But then when you start to look down here, we've got acai bowls near me, acai bowl near me, things like that. And there's a whole bunch of impressions available there, but our position is much lower. We're all the way down on, what is that, page 4 or 5 for terms that would be really, really powerful for you if we could just pump that up. And so as we're starting to transition and switch our focus into this kind of more franchise centralized, this focus on getting those location service pages built out, getting the structure in place so that once we're ready to start running ads for each of the locations, we need to make sure that we're focusing on some of these keywords, because if we have 9,000 people searching for acai bowls near me and we're on the 4th page, we're not going to be able to compete and we're not going to see all that traffic. If we brought up if we even just look at like nautical bowls, we have 50% of the impressions we get the clicks. If we took that up here, that's an additional $4,000 or 4,000 visits to the site just from that one keyword. So as we transition into this next phase where we're starting to focus on the franchises, we need to decide a couple things. One is we need to use these keywords, and Dennis can talk more about this. We need to choose which keywords we're going to have be kind of our focal points for those local service pages and for those, not local service, for those local franchise pages. We need to decide how involved we want to be as a franchise with the advertising efforts of the locations, and then how we want to control the assets that those franchises are going to use. Are we going to own the ad accounts and grant them access? Are we going to have them create the ad accounts, share access with us? That's kind of the discussion we need to have to decide how we're moving forward with getting those franchises prepped and ready to go. So any questions on what we've got so far? And then we can maybe transition to some of those next topics.
We're going to defer to you guys on your expertise, on your experience in franchise brands? Is it typically the franchisor owns it and then grants access to the franchisee, or other way around?
Yep. We have to control it centrally, which of
Okay.
course we're going to have some franchisees that complain about this sort of thing, but there's a reason why.
Yeah, we'll have
Yeah.
a small handful that will, but then the other ones will be like, oh, you guys will, oh, great, yeah. That's going to be the majority of them that are going to defer to that.
Yeah. Because there's always going to be some gung-ho franchisees that will follow our checklist, but we know the majority of these entrepreneurs, they don't know about the marketing and the website stuff and all that. We just need to handle it for them, kind of as like an internal agency, even though they can have their own local marketing agency, social media, whatever they want, just in their city as well. Back to what Daniel was saying, you remember the issue about we're not completely sure of what's going on with LTV, because, you know, if they are signed up in the program, by definition, they're going to have a higher LTV because it's, you know, it's the nature of signing up for something. So, you know, user bias selection. In the same way that knowing the LTV is critical to making smart business decisions, the same is true for knowing where the traffic is coming from.
Yeah.
Right. And when almost half of our traffic is we're not sure where it's coming from, that can significantly affect any decision that we make. So we need to get that correct, even though it does look like internal traffic. Daniel was being kind with that direct on traffic. It's not type in bookmark, I promise you that. Like even with like Nike and Starbucks and Red Bull, these guys wouldn't even hit more than 10% direct none, right? And these are like, you know, CNN or whatever, major news sites don't even hit 10% direct none.
Okay, things that people would actually bookmark. Yeah.
So the good news, I'm sharing my screen here, is that when we look, the brand is strong. So for Nautical Bowls, as Daniel was showing you, it's absolutely kick ass. But I did a filter for where we don't have Nautical, and then you have Nautica and, you know, ways other people can't seem to spell Nautical. But all these acai bowl, like I'm one of those, like less is more, like 80-20. So acai bowls near me, this has got a lot of volume, and we are not doing well on it.
Okay.
And if we do acai bowl or smoothie bowl or something times city name, the keyword difficulty on those terms is like between 0 and 5. So they're all really easy to go after.
Okay.
And all these other non-brand terms are mostly pretty easy and high volume. So I think if we roll out this local SEO strategy that we talked about, because we know the site is already not bad. I mean, it's, you know, it's okay. It's not terrible, but it's not fantastic. At a 38, but we rank on, what is it, like 12,000 keywords, 13,000 keywords. I think we can, I don't want to set the wrong expectations, but I think that it's not going to be a ton of effort to be able to increase the search traffic, which then I believe would naturally lead to foot traffic, which then drives this. Obviously, getting more search traffic doesn't mean driving more sales necessarily, but
it would definitely help, because these people that are searching, they're definitely, like, when you search for food near me, you're probably going to go to that place
near me,
or
they're going to eat. They're going to eat something in the next, you know, hour or so.
Sandwich shop near me, coffee shop near me. They're going to go in the next hour, right? So like we can assume the searches convert to a sale probably within 24 hours.
I'm just being very, very conservative, but yes, definitely any near me or any geo-modified term is going to win on that. Something that I think we covered briefly, but maybe we need to revisit, which is very fundamental, is that our mobile score is a 28 on Google's. Did we cover this? Like this is like, there's all these complex things that we can do, but basic stuff like fixing this mobile and desktop score, I mean, these are both terrible. So if we want to improve our SEO, the first thing we have to do is the site can't take forever to load, right? And on WordPress, there's a lot of issues that are easy to fix, especially like the main issue being our images are too big, right? Okay. So we could fix that, or put us in touch with your web person, or like like you would think SEO has all this magical stuff, but just simply making the site load faster and passing core web vitals, and just Google has these basic, this is Google's tool, passing these basic standards is going to make a huge difference.
Okay, well, let's do that.
Then we can do all the content stuff and link stuff, and, you know, all the other things that we talked about, right? That we can give to the franchisees. But I consider this low-hanging fruit. This is ridiculous. You know, if people have to wait 14 seconds to wait for a site to load, that's insane, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's, especially the younger they are, the more impatient they are. And here, if I just reload the timeline, and you can see how many GET requests there are and how long it takes to load. already we have over 200 get requests and the payload's 11 megabytes, actually, 28 megabytes. That's just insane, right? And I'm on 2 gig Wi-Fi. I know Daniel's Wi-Fi is a little bit slow, but I've got the fastest Wi-Fi you can get your hands on. And even still, it's taking me 5 seconds to load. Good luck if you're on a Wi-Fi connection or you're on Verizon or whoever. Like, forget it. It's never not going to happen. So,
Okay. And then
I don't think it's a ton of effort
to fix that, we just make our content sizes, our media on here smaller. So the file size is smaller. That will make that big change.
Yeah, that you can also do caching. You can do external image caching through different third-party providers, and you can do native caching. Google has one called AMP, and Facebook has one, and some of the other guys they have caching as well. But caching allows everything to preload.
Okay.
Especially if we have repeat visitors. If they come to the site the next time, then it's already preloaded, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's definitely not me, but Brooklyn. What should we just get these guys in touch with Tim and his team, or?
Yeah, and they had previously recommended that as well, of like offloading some of the videos and images to third parties, removing some of the video, making that stuff like photos and images.
But this is like I don't want to say it's a 911, but this is very important. And anyone who does websites, we don't need to explain this to them, right? This is so one-to-one. They know this, right?
Okay. So let's do that in 5 minutes. Let's do it right now. Let's do it yesterday. JK LOL. Let's get that. I mean, I don't know what we need to do because we had a lower score than that, if you could believe that or not. And then we redid the website, and it looks like it's gone up just from redoing the website, but still having these very large images. Seems like we should just smack ourselves in the head for not doing that already. So anyway, okay, so there's that.
If they need help, we can help them. It'll just take a couple days of our guys to fix this. It's not a big deal. I'm pretty sure they know what to do, but if they need help, we can do it too.
Okay, Brooklyn, I guess you decide that.
Yep.
Okay, we covered that piece. So just that alone, you think that'll get us into like the yellow or the green?
I think we should be able to easily get into the 80s. Ideally, get into the 90s. I mean, the score is not everything, but clearly 28 is not acceptable. And yeah, the payload's got to be less than ideally 2 megabytes. I think we're at like 13 or 14. I mean, come on, right? I mean, time people like 6 or 7 seconds in, they still can't even use the site, right?
Okay. No, that's very good info that's very good info. Okay.
Yeah. And then in parallel, we can do a lot of the SEO work. So we talked about these acai bowls, like certainly Nautical bowls, because it's a branded search doesn't really count because that's not search, as navigation.
Correct.
We look at what our top pages are, and we had a little bit of a drop here. These other pages, nutritional guide, loyalty app, these we can create, because these are our top pages. This is kind of like the 80-20. We can easily enhance by building internal links from this 28, right? There's no internal links here. So these pages that are most important ones aren't getting any traffic. And then we can use real pictures and videos, especially repurposing videos into text, so that Google can see this and users can see this. We get a longer dwell time. People stay on the site longer, and then that moves us up in the search results. So our view of SEO is really just get better engagement by having better content on the pages that matter and then link to it. There's no internal links. So you got a fair amount of juice here, and we're just not linking. This is super easy. And so that's why we wanted to give you Link Whisper and Rank Math as two of our favorite WordPress plugins that will just help us do that. And they have AI integrated to make recommendations. And we can set up a separate session with Brooklyn or whatnot, and just we get an hour, and we can just kind of distribute link equity, use ChatGPT and whatnot to be able to enhance some of these top pages that are very image heavy and text light. There's so little, there's just not enough information here. Like here, you'd expect this page about the product. There's nothing about the product except a few of these videos. There's no wonder, right? So you can just basically go page by page and, just start to enhance it with real pictures and images and I mean, real text that accompanies the pictures and images. There's like almost no text, right? This is very much low hanging fruit, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So this starts to get into the whole phase of content and SEO, and this, which is what happens after we have the data and you're in the emergency room. We understand it's emergency, but we have to take the X-ray and all of this before we can start operating, because we need to make sure we understand what the issue is. And I think we have a good understanding of what that issue is.
Okay. So then next steps.
So I think we provided a couple recommendations a week or two ago on the next two phases that we can do in tandem or parallel.
Now, are those, one of them was, so are those still included with the with what we've already set up, or is that we're done with that now?
So we're almost done with plumbing. So digital plumbing, to draw a box around it, is let's get all the data in one place so that we can be confident about the data and analyze any kind of discrepancies. And if it's easy to fix, then we'll help fix those. And like even fixing the website so that we get the proper data, which is part of digital plumbing, I would even throw that in there just to be nice, because we don't want to nickel and dime you for like a day or two of developer work. Because I just want to make sure the data is in place, right? Because from the data, we can analyze it, we can figure out what the right content is, we can run ads, we can do all these other things that come from, we understand what's going on with the data, and all the data is in one place. So I feel like we're, Daniel can give a number, but my guess is like 85% there on that phase.
Yeah, especially with the franchise central stuff, it'll add in more once we get all the location pages built out and all those things. That obviously is another chapter of plumbing, but we can't do that until we get to that phase. So we're probably 85-90% done with the franchise plumbing phase, and then I'll start working on that other stuff as soon as we get those location pages and those microsites kind of fleshed out.
I think now is also a good time to hire another person to your marketing team internally to be an internal content person to basically enhance those location pages and continue to build out those location pages. And that can be a, mid-level or even a senior level content person.
Okay.
Because that's the biggest thing for the SEO, is just getting more content in there. And that person, of course, can go through our SEO training. They can even be junior and have no experience and go through our training. But we basically need to have enough information so that each location can basically stand alone as a microsite and have enough information about, the founder, about the partnerships they have, about how far the park is, or, all this, like what's the weather, all these sorts of things for their city, right? Ideally, that's what the franchisee would do, but our experience is that most franchisees don't. So it just needs to be handled internally. And when you have, one or two VAs, if you go the VA route, one or two VAs can definitely handle that across all locations. So
it would have to be specific, site specific too. Like we couldn't just be populating content about the acai and the health benefits of that and blah blah blah.
You can, but Google has guidelines that used to be called EAT that they updated to EEAT, which means we have to include actual experience, actual pictures and videos from that location. Otherwise, I mean, the reason why they made that change a year ago is that they knew that all these AI tools would just cause this mass explosion of garbage. You can imagine, right?
Yeah.
They know. Yeah. And it's true. It does work. A lot of these people that are raving about the AI, this and that, they've been auto-generating tons of garbage. And yes, it does work in search results, but I don't think it's going to last.
So actually getting the picture or the video on the iPhone inside the store.
Yeah.
And is that automatically geographically tagged, or do you have to go do that?
It's automatically on. You can turn those things off. But all these different signals that relate to schema and V cards and H cards and other things that are sort of like metadata around the data are important. You don't have to worry about that. We'll handle all that. So as these location pages, which are basically websites, mini websites are being built out, we'll make sure that the schema markup is handled. In other words, all this, the categorization of the data, technically, we will handle for you.
Okay. So we have, what was the other thing? MAA? Is that, so like that next thing that you had, or what did you share with me? So really, like, what are the next steps and what are the costs of those things and what is the time frame of those things? Is really good.
So I think I recommended 2 phases that could go in sequence or in parallel, and one is content and another one is ads. And MAA is built into everything. MAA, metrics analysis action, is the continued optimization and analysis and looking at data and understanding what it means and interpreting. That's sort of a thing you can't buy separately, because you just have to have intelligent people that understand what's going on, right? And so the content phase that I recommended is, let's get all of our content organized. Then we can use ChatGPT and all these other tools to tune it and build out the web pages or websites for each of these locations. And then the part with the dollar a day advertising, that second component is, let's drive traffic there. So as I think of driving traffic as like renting the traffic instead of like buying the traffic. Like you can rent a car and then eventually I gotta buy the car. So owning the car is the SEO, but renting the traffic, sampling the traffic is ads. So I like the idea of, as content is being made, then we can run ads against it, kind of see how it does, and then use MAA to be able to tune it and help us adjust our content strategy. So that's why those two kind of go hand in hand. Some people, if they're tighter on budget, we can do them sequentially. If you want to do them together, we can. And then we'll put more people on it.
Okay. And then what is the price on that?
I think we said $10K for each of those 2 phases as a one-time.
Okay.
So that would be 10 plus 10, so 20. And if we do them sequentially, it should be 3 months. I know we're heading into December, so it might be 4 months depending on where people are during, the holidays and that kind of thing. So if you do
Okay.
both 20K, call it 120 days because December, people aren't around as much.
Okay. So if we don't have the budget for that right now, what would be your recommendation?
I would do the content piece. I would do just that one over the next 90 days.
Okay.
And then I would hire a VA. If you want to be cost conscious, have us set things up initially and then quickly push everything to VAs that are $500 a month full time. If I was really trying to economize but not throw out the baby with the bathwater, I would do the content piece and I would hire 2 VAs and have somebody.
They're working. Those VAs are working 40 hours a week.
Yes, but you have to manage VAs just like people, right?
Mhm.
VAs are not magical. They're people. They just live on the other side of the planet and they have to be managed. And
Mhm.
just like with people get lazy, people don't do good work, they don't show up. Or the issue with any kind of people is true with VAs too. It's just a little harder to manage them because they're in another country and their
Yeah.
English often isn't as good. But you can hire people with fantastic English. Just got to pay a little bit more.
Okay.
So
I don't know if anyone
everything we do
2:30.
can be. Sorry, I lost my voice. Everything we do can be done by VAs, except for some of the higher level strategy components, like what you see Daniel and I do. So you could use Daniel and I for those items that are the harder bits to get, and then everything else is checklist driven. But
Okay.
it's going to be more effort on your part to,
But yeah,
find.
we're okay to bring it in house. Like we have, we have our team, and we want to do that. And in our initial calls, like we want to help you guys get it set up, and then you should take it in house.
Exactly.
Okay, that's what we want to do as a franchise brand. That's what we should do. And so, yeah, there's that. We'll connect with our team now, and we'll get back with you guys. But we're not going to stop we're 85% of the way there. Let's still finish that. They're going to be done with the microsites here hopefully pretty soon. And then we'll get that stuff, keep setting up the digital plumbing. But then we'll get back with you guys on the content strategy stuff and what we want to do with that. So,
yeah, fantastic. Either way, whatever you choose, the end goal is still bringing everything in house. It's just a question of how much effort do you want from us to do that versus how much do you want to follow checklists. So it's still the same path. It's still the same destination.
Yeah. If we had the budget, we'd be sending it over to you guys, but we have to be a little bit creative. So, thank you guys. Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Appreciate you.